Welcome to Phails. My name is Philip Jones, and today my guest is David Garrison. He is a playful, authentic connector, and he's the Central Texas Mankind Project iGroup coordinator. This is the part where we dive into David's life story.
Okay.
And it starts from the beginning with where were you born?
I was born in Nolens.
In Nolens.
Nolens, Louisiana.
For all those folks out there that are not familiar with
okay, I can say New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Or New Orleans.
Nolens. That's spelled
New Orleans.
N''AWLIN apostrophe.
Yes, that's right. New Orleans.
Nolens.
Nolens.
Oh, there's an S in there. You're born in Nolens?
That's right. In Metairie. That's right.
Oh, I know where Metairie is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And City Park, is that in Metairie?
Mm.
Anyway, you were born in New Orleans?
That's right. How detailed do you want to go here? What are we doing here?
Well,
you want to know my emotional development, like the big parts of my life, like what I see looking back, the big parts of my life, or what in relationship to my personal development?
Comfortable with the uncertainty around how we're going to discuss your life story.
Well, I'm just curious. Like, what do you want me to focus on?
Well, you were born in New Orleans.
I was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can just focus on that right now, and then I'll ask another question.
Okay.
And then you can answer that one or
okay.
not.
Okay.
I'll guide us.
Good.
Yeah. And as we're talking about this, you can feel free to not answer questions or to say, hey, I don't want to talk about that, or you can answer questions. You know,
another great principle in all the positive support circles is you can always pass.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, you can pass. You were born into what type of family?
My family,
like from a real, this is a data type of question. So there was your parents were married at the time. There was other brothers and sisters at the time.
Yeah, they were married. My dad from Alabama, my mom from Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Two older brothers, and I was the baby.
Yeah. How many kids in the
three boys?
3 boys in this family.
Yes.
Are your parents still married, or if they're still alive, did they stay married their whole life?
They did, yeah. And my dad is 93.
Oh wow.
And he lives close to me, and he's still pretty highly functioning. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My mom passed away 10 years ago after 8 years of Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Billy Helen Green.
Billy Helen Green.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
So your mom passed away 10 years ago. Your dad's still alive and living close to you. So y'all have a connection.
That's right. Yeah.
And you were the third of 3 boys.
Yes.
I think of, well, let's talk about birth order a little bit.
Uh-huh.
You were the third, so you're the baby, right? Is that what they say? The last one that's born is kind of the baby of the family.
So it's easy to make up stories and generalize here. I mean, just saying.
Yeah.
I could have been the baby, but could have been the badass, Mr. Responsible.
What were you?
I was the baby.
Yeah.
I was the baby. Not only was I the baby chronologically, I was the entry into the family of this little ball of playful emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was that. And my judgment is that there wasn't a lot of that in my family outside of me.
Playfulness, playful loving energy.
Or expression. Just real, like letting it all out. Yeah.
Did your brothers kind of in your memory, fall into kind of a classic birth order archetypes? Like your oldest is the type A, go out there and get it, kind of the ruler of the kids.
The way I'd say it is my dad, strong, silent type, hard worker. He would do anything for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Never about himself, ever. It was always, and coach baseball, football. Like whenever he had time, he was there as a father, but very few words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
No words of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of that. Okay. My oldest brother followed that model and kind of emotionally quiet, but would do whatever my dad, modeled. He followed that, follow the rules, do everything that way. And the middle brother was sort of like, didn't have a place, kind of always felt like he was on the periphery, like he didn't have a solid role. my oldest brother was this. I was the baby, very connected with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I think my mom was a lot brighter and had a lot more stuff to give than she allowed herself. I turned out she was like an incredible basketball player in high school. I didn't, and me and my other brother and my dad played college basketball. We used to play basketball in the driveway all the time. I didn't find out my mom was such a good basketball player until I was 15 years old. She hid that.
She could have been playing with y'all
She
and
could have been.
schooling y'all at
She could have been.
basketball.
She
Yeah,
could have
but
been.
she didn't
But that wasn't there was no space for the woman to do that
to
with the guys.
participate. Yeah.
This my heart just is like feels like I don't even know all that she could have. She was a great mom. She
Yeah.
did her role fantastic.
Was she a stay-at-home mom?
She was.
And your dad was the breadwinner.
That's right. It was very traditional.
What type of work did he do?
He worked in the oil industry.
Oil industry.
Yeah, a lot of it was offshore, so after New Orleans, we moved to Grand Isle, which is a little island off of Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And he would fly on a helicopter and 8 days working, 2 days off, that kind of thing for a long time. Yeah.
Was he gone a lot?
When he was doing that, he would spend 8 days away.
8 days, but before that, when you were in New Orleans.
Well, I was only up to 3.5 years old.
Okay.
I don't really remember.
So
then when I was 3.5, I moved to Grand Isle. I remember those days. And, there were sometimes he would work 7 and 7, or like he'd work more at home.
Mm-hmm.
But so it varied a lot. There were times when he was much more present than other times.
Right.
And when he was present, he would get involved with my sports, He loved supporting that. Yeah.
What was it like having that scenario where your dad would leave for 7 days and it'd be you and your brothers and your mom, and then he'd come back? And then was there any challenge with him reintegrating with the family? Because I'd imagine your mom would have to set new kind of rules and boundaries and expectations when he's gone to,
I honestly, I don't remember that. I don't remember it ever. I want to say, I could point at the things that were not good about my childhood, but I always felt loved, always felt safe, always.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel the big challenge for me was that my family tried to suppress my expression. Like they never, it's probably very typical for boys not to be encouraged to do artistic work.
That was your experience.
This was my experience. It's like anything like music or art or even just emotionality that was suppressed.
By your mom and your dad?
By the whole family.
By everybody?
Yeah, my brothers would mock me when I would, act silly or stuff like that. Like I was a baby, I was like acting like a baby, even when I was 8, 9 years old.
Being artistic was acting like a baby.
I think that's the message I got.
Or being expressive, being entertaining with...
Trying to encourage more connection. Like, let's feel each other. This is what I think was underneath it, is I wanted to be free to express who I was, and I wanted us to feel that with each other and celebrate it.
Yeah.
My words, right? And no, this was too edgy, too much. We got to keep it cool,
Everybody needs to hold in their emotions.
Yes.
It's very stoic or very kind of...
Stoic is a good word.
Individual people that
do your work,
manage their own
focus
stuff.
on your school, do that, make dinner, but none of this. We're not going to dance in the kitchen.
You're one.
My parents would never have any physical displays of affection.
Between them or between you guys?
Maybe I got a few hugs from my mom. Rarely from my dad. There was very little of that modeling. Yeah.
What was... When you remember any felt sense of love with your mom or your dad, what were you doing? Like, when did you feel loved? Or how?
Well, I think I said I felt safe and I felt loved. Always felt safe. Yeah. I felt safe. I felt like they would do anything to make sure I was safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I still believe that.
Is there any moments where you felt loved or you felt loving connection with your mom?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What were you doing?
So I want to say that my mom, because she was, this human needing love and being seen, but she couldn't express that in our family. I've kind of mentioned that, like her intelligence and her athleticism and stuff. There wasn't much space for her to. She always deprecated herself, like she wasn't as smart as the men. She'd
Okay.
say that,
Okay.
and I felt the same way. Like I was not as smart as the other men. I
Mhm.
wasn't as good as the other men, right? I always felt that. So she and I think, had a bond around feeling less than.
What were y'all like physically doing while that bond was unfolding? Would y'all
Mm,
do things together, or what were the like? Would you come home from school and
mm,
you would have talks, or would y'all
not
like
talks.
how would that unfold?
So I could name a few things, but I have this one thing that always comes to mind is, so this was before I started going to school. I still remember we did this a number of times. Grand Isle is an island, and I've drawn this picture. I've kind of led self-expression workshops, and like name a time when you were a child when you felt really loved, and it's
Mm-hmm.
such a beautiful experience. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so here's like do you know what a pier is?
Mm-hmm.
Like a big wooden pier
I know
out
what a
into
period
the
is.
Gulf,
Yeah.
right? So my mom would, when everyone was at work or at school, my mom would take me to the beach,
Mm-hmm.
and I would carry two buckets. One of them had a bunch of chicken wings, and the other one was empty. And we walk out on the pier, and then she'd pull out this string or rope with hooks on it, and she'd ask me, David, give me another wing. She'd take the wing and she'd hook it on the hooks,
Mm-hmm.
and then she'd put it in the water, and then she'd pull it up, and there'd be a bunch of crabs.
Oh.
And then she'd pull the crabs off, and she'd say, hand me the bucket, and then hold up the other bucket, and she'd put the crabs in there. And then she was just constantly just saying, you're my big little man, David. I couldn't do this without you.
Yeah.
And I still remember just feeling uh, so loved,
Yeah.
like I was able to actually be her little man.
Yeah.
And um, that was that was the thing that was so missing most of the time.
Yeah.
And when it happened, it was beautiful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about with your dad?
So I just want to name that was the world of me doing and showing up as the little man, as the 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 correct version of being a little man. You with me?
Mm-mm.
Being of service,
Yeah.
being
You
useful.
and your mom were doing
Like my
something.
dad, like going out and being service to other people, right? So that's what was encouraged.
Yeah. Y'all
It
were
was
working
it was rare. Like I don't even remember, David, that's a fantastic drawing.
y'all were working together
I was helping my mom.
to get crabs.
That's right. I was helping my mom,
You were helping your mom get
and
crabs.
and no one else could do it like I could.
And when you were helping your mom get crabs, you felt a lot of love and connection with your
That's
mom.
right. Yeah.
Like you were important
That's right.
and you felt loved.
That's right.
What about with your dad?
Probably when in the sports realm, that's where I felt the most encouragement from him.
Y'all would do sports together?
That's right. We'd practice, or he would be a coach or something, and I did baseball and basketball very close to him,
Mm-hmm.
and got a lot of praise from him, and that felt really
When you
good.
did good at
That's
sports,
right.
you'd get praise
That's right. Yeah,
and you felt loved.
I did. I did.
And I have this assumption that he didn't tell you he loved you a lot,
That's true.
but he showed you he loved you
He,
by being with you and working with you in sports.
yeah, and he praised me when it's when I was doing something in a good way, right?
And it's almost like,
But I just want to say the part that was missing for me, it's very clear, is I don't remember any times when I would come home from school with a drawing or singing a song or dancing or anything that was expressive and saying, David, you're so good at that. do more. Hey, could you do that? Like, I love this picture. There was none of that.
This is the king side that was suppressed. This is the
This is,
direction that I want to go in the world. These are the things that I'm excited in the world, and I'm showing you the things I'm excited in and that I want to invest my time and energy in. And they're starving those things of
it's
attention.
more the self-expression part, the artistic, the creative,
Right.
the the lover, a lot of the lover energy.
So
Yeah.
when they were nurturing was the sports, and
I
they were
was doing.
nurturing the service
Yes.
with the craft.
That's right.
Those are the times when they gave you positive reinforcement.
That's correct. Yes.
They didn't give you positive reinforcement when you were doing artistic things or being silly or being expressive
That's
and
right.
entertaining.
That's right.
What was discipline like in your household?
Um, I think there were maybe 3 or 4 times where I got spanked, but they didn't do that very much.
Not much.
No, I think there were timeouts. Hmm. I didn't feel like there was. I think all the kids were fairly. I don't know the right word, but cooperative. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was your
I think that where there might, like, I think, yeah, as I grew older, if there were things that I really wanted to do that they wouldn't have liked, I just hid it from them.
hmm,
Yeah.
was your mom the disciplinarian? Was your dad, or did they share that?
I think they shared it because a lot of times my dad wasn't there.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so when there was
I don't remember them yelling ever
at each other?
at each other or at me. Like, I don't remember anything that could be verbal abuse or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So they think they were pretty calm with me.
Yeah.
The only time it was a little uncomfortable is like when I was around my mom and I would get kind of maybe hyper or a little more expressive, and it would start aggravating my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad 1,000 times would come in the room and said, "David, stop that. You're upsetting your mom."
Mm.
David would upset his mom a lot.
Have you ever been diagnosed with ADHD or any kind of
No,
neurodivergence?
no,
Okay.
no. I don't think I'm. I know I talk about my expressiveness quite a bit, but I think that's more just pushed. Like, it's this dynamic of what was lacking, and I am expressive, but I can also be very calm and manage my feelings
Mm-hmm.
well too. So,
So your dad would come in whenever he got a sense, his like spider senses
oh,
would
he
tingle
took
that
care of
mom was
mom.
getting overwhelmed. He
Oh
would
yeah,
come in and say, "Knock it off, David.
that's right.
Your mom needs to chill."
That's right. And then my brother, my oldest brother especially, he picked up on that and
And
he
he would,
joined forces anytime he could,
yeah,
shut David down. That gets strokes from mom and dad.
yeah.
And the 10 years, last 10 years since my mom's passed, I have looked for opportunities to put some of these things on the table with my dad and my brothers.
Mm.
And we're all so much closer because of it.
Hmm. What is your earliest memory as a human being?
The most, it's a tough one. I have a memory that showed up in my dreams, so it's mixed with reality and dream. But I don't know if I was two, 2.5 years old on a little tricycle right outside my front yard. There was this really big tree, big oak tree or something, and I can still see all this. And there were some bugs crawling around on the tree. I remember that. And then in my dreams, that has shown up at times as a million bugs coming out of the tree, like a kind of a nightmarish thing. But the earliest kind of big thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you were in the family unit until how old? When did you move away?
We're
I guess
going.
you were you on that island until you went to college? Or
No,
until you
no,
left?
no, no, no. When I was when I was around five and a half, maybe six, we moved to another town for a year, and then after that we moved to Franklin, and then that's where I was from like fourth grade until graduating high school.
Was in Franklin.
Yeah, in Franklin. So that was kind of a central part of my childhood.
What is Franklin?
Franklin,
Louisiana?
Franklin, Louisiana. Yeah, 15,000 people,
Okay.
pretty small town.
What was it like?
Significant parts of it. Probably the biggest part um, was I was in school in junior high through high school when integration was pulled into the public schools in Louisiana.
Mm.
So in junior high, I went to the school that was formerly the black high school.
Mm-hmm.
So you had all these white people coming over and integrating into this school. And I think I was there for 2 years. There were a number of, let's call them race riots, walking around school and getting hit and stuff. Like there was this constant tension.
You got hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You had to constantly be aware of where you were and what you were doing.
Who'd you get hit by?
What I'm referring to is black boys that were, like there was this tension among the races.
The black boys didn't want you going to their school.
I can't speak for them,
Yeah.
but I imagine there was probably a lot of reasons why they weren't real happy about what was going on.
What was that like? So you were there when they started integrating the
That's
schools.
right.
So white kids and black kids would go to school together.
Yeah. It was, I didn't have anything to compare it to, but it was, there was, I think, always some anxiety for people, feeling like not totally safe all
You
the
felt a
time.
lot of anxiety and
Yeah.
not being safe in school.
I'm sure it was there. Yeah. Yeah. The bigger part came when I actually went to high school. So then I went to high school. When my brother went to this high school, it was like 90+% white, and then some more blacks, and mostly blacks were the other part.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I graduated, it was 30% white and 70% black.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that shift, right? Like it was total cultural change.
Yeah.
And during that time, so many whites went to the Catholic schools. Their parents pulled them out of the school, and they created these new schools that only white kids would go to. Like it was just blatant racial conflict and racial segregation and like pushback to the integration.
I could see. Yeah. So the white families that were racist or didn't want their kids
Are typical.
educated.
Typical down there. Yeah, it was very
They
common.
moved their kids out of the public schools.
That's right.
And found schools that could be white only.
That's right. And so there was a lot of teachers that left the public school. Like it was this change, constant change. So a few things that were impactful for me is I've always been someone with a foot in lots of different bucket communities,
Mm-hmm.
but not just in one. Like there's different parts of me. I like to connect with lots of different kinds of people, which is great, but it also, nobody fully embraces you, right? Because,
You're a chameleon, a social
that's
chameleon.
right. I'm not really fully safe either, right? So part of me was in the National Honor Society. I was in the Thespian Society. I was in the sports teams. I remember getting in a car and my friend passing me a joint, and the other two guys looked at each other and said, "Is he cool?" Like, because I was like had a reputation as being a good student,
Mm-hmm.
but could I also be cool enough to be smoking weed in the back of
Yeah.
there was always, can you trust David to be a good member of this group?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually dated a young woman who was black, a few times. And then she pulled me aside and said, David, we can't do this anymore. I said, why not? We're having fun. We're fun, right? Yeah. Yeah. But I've had a couple of guys approach me and they said, if we see you with David again, we're just going to kick his ass. So there was this racial dynamic happening that was like, yeah,
Gosh.
there's all this stuff going on. Yeah. And so, so I played basketball, and as I said, when my brother went to school, it was almost all whites on the team. When my senior year, I was the only white on the starting team.
Of course, the black people played better sports.
Well, they were good at
That's just
basketball,
question,
but
yeah.
this was true with all the schools around there. This is kind of funny. So I was often the only white guy on the court.
Shane Gillis has this skit. He's a comedian.
Yeah.
He's got this skit where he's at one of these schools as they're integrating.
Okay.
And at the beginning, they're like, we're just going to take our boys out there and keep the white whole team. And they went out and just got crushed by all the other teams
Oh,
where
right.
they integrated.
Right.
And at the end, they're like, well, we're going to integrate. And the thing that comes up for me in this is how the adults in our culture are creating turmoil for children to deal with. Like integrating schools, and now you have race riots in schools and teachers and all this tension and conflict, and yet it needs to occur. There needs to be connection. Like you're a connector. There needs to be networking and social integration. We need to all,
I believe that.
I would ask the question, have we done it? I'll say from my perspective, I don't have many black friends. I don't have many friends of other races.
Yes.
While we might have integrated schools,
yes,
I still, and I don't know why.
Yes.
Like, it's not like I wake up in the morning and say, I'm only going to hang out with white people.
Yes.
I'm not going to be in black communities. But it seems like we've, from my observation, kind of stayed in our little groups.
Yeah.
While we're going to school together, even in schools, there's divisions that are social and unspoken.
Yeah.
Except for maybe when they come together for the photo club. But even
you might
in the
be mixed
club,
in the classroom, you're mixed, but in the cafeteria, you can see the separation.
Or in your mind, the networks. And this is just me.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is everybody else. And part of me feels scared to share it because it's some like evidence of my racism.
Yeah. Yeah. I think without naming it, we're not going to change anything.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a lot that's just a part of it is cultural and part of it is wiring, and it's very complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think the least we can do is say, I'd like to be open to a diverse set of friends and be actually open to it.
Yeah, your tone of your voice has changed some. The volume's gone down a little bit. I think there's a seriousness with this topic.
Absolutely.
That changes.
It matters a lot to me. Yeah.
It matters to me too.
Could I share just a little bit more about this? Do we have time?
Of course. Yeah. I don't know how much time do you need?
This is about my high school experience.
Oh, absolutely.
And it touches on this issue of racism.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a little bit, so here I am, the only white guy on the court, right? You got this mixed crowd of people, but on the court, it's all black guys playing. And there's David, right? Mm-hmm. David was a pretty good basketball player. If he hadn't gotten injured, he probably would have played small college basketball. I got injured after my senior year, but so imagine you go out on the court and you get the ball and you score on this guy who's guarding you, and then you do it again, and maybe you do it a third time. It was so predictable. The guys on the benches of the other team saying, "Stop that honky from doing that," right?
Yeah.
And it was just like the guys guarding me had all this pressure on them to do whatever they had to do to stop me.
Because it wasn't just basketball. It was a race war out there.
Absolutely. It was like shaming him for letting this white dude do this.
Best him.
That's right. It's a lot at stake, right?
Goodness.
Yeah. And so very predictable over the course of the year, maybe there was 15 games. I swear to you, at least 12 of the games, I got into a pushing match where, I'd shoot and they would just hack the hell out of me. And I was forced, or they'd push me, and the referees were a little shy about calling it. So there's this pushing going on. So I'm having to defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
And at least 12 of the games, I was involved in a pushing match, or like where I had to guard someone else or something. We had to deal, and this was happening, right? It was like everyone knew it was happening. End of the year, the sports banquet. Guess who got Sportsman of the Year?
You did.
I did, which I think is hilarious.
Because you endured that.
I guess that was the reason, but at the same time, I was involved in all these altercations, and
Would you fight physically? Would you
well,
fists?
I don't think I ever swung at a person.
That's why you got the Sportsman Award.
Maybe. I definitely did push people. I definitely got involved in that. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was just how weird that situation was. Just the weirdness of it. Okay. The second thing I wanted to share was that at the end of the year at the football, the senior year, the homecoming football game, halftime, they had the band, and then they had the homecoming king and queen walk across the field. So I was the student council president. I had my foot in everything, right? And I walked across the field with Myra Burrell, 6'1", black girl, afro like this, beautiful young girl. We weren't, we were friends.
Mm-hmm.
We walk across the field, black woman, white man in front of this crowd. It was both terrifying and one of the happiest moments of my life.
Mm.
Yeah. I could just feel like there was like this significant thing was happening, that had never happened before. Yeah. Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to share was, I think I was in either 10th or 11th grade. All this integration was happening in high school, and there's all this stuff happening, right? And my parents sat me down one evening and they said, David, we know how hard it is going to school with all the tension and things going on. And then they said that we know it's really hard on you, and they're like, and we really want you to learn how to get along with all kinds of people. And we know it's really hard, and we'll be here for you, but we want you to stay in school and figure this out. And I just want to say, like, my dad, I knew this. My dad was from Selma, Alabama. If you know where Selma is.
That's where the beginning of the march.
That's right. It's where the bridge with all the dogs and the fire hoses happened, right?
Yeah.
And I had experience at this point going there and experiencing and seeing the racism that was there. And Arkansas, same thing. Like, I knew that my parents came from a very racist environment, and here we are in the backlash to this integration, and my parents are like, no, we're with you. We want to see all this change happen, and we're with you. We're not going to support you running away from it. And I don't know if I've ever felt more love from them than I felt in that moment. It was just like there's a part of me that's like, oh, rescue me, But there was this big part of me that's like, holy moly, They love me. They want me to be safe. And yet they love me enough to say, you can do it. You can do this. This is important, you know?
Yeah, I think of a piece of coal enduring tremendous pressure over
Mm,
time, turning into a diamond.
I don't know, but it was super impactful for me. Yeah.
Your folks weren't, well, were your folks racist?
No, no, is what I'm saying is that they had every opportunity to display racism. And I don't remember them ever doing anything that I've like overtly. I'm sure they did some subconscious stuff, right? But no,
They believed and supported integration.
absolutely. And I still to this day I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did this happen?
What do you mean?
Like, given where they came from,
Oh,
how
yeah.
did they turn out to be that way? I don't know.
You don't have any, does your dad share anything about that?
We've
Is he,
talked about it. It's just how they were. They just like we always felt like treating everyone the same was the right thing to do.
yeah,
Like, okay,
it seems so easy.
okay,
Treating everybody
not
with love and kindness and compassion
yeah.
and empathy.
If yeah, if yeah, if you it wasn't until later that I went back home and I had more awareness about systemic racism that I actually saw just how much racism was ingrained in Southern Louisiana, the working world, the schools, everything. It was just like it was like a veil, like in you're in it, you don't see it. But
I think it was spanned further than southern Louisiana.
oh
You
yeah,
got
yeah.
Mississippi, Alabama,
Oh, big time.
Georgia.
But I did not know about it that even though I was in it, like I couldn't date this girl because of this going on, all the fights, all the everything, like I still did not really get it. It was interesting.
That had to have changed you and really influenced you. It seems like your parents wanted you to find the gifts in the
Mm-hmm.
tension, the
Mm-hmm.
gifts in interacting with a lot of different types of people.
Yeah,
It seems like you wanted that too. You had your
I
foot
did.
in all the
I
different
did. Yeah.
groups
Yeah.
and also playing sports
Yeah.
with folks, the black folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always really enjoyed meeting people from other places, and yeah, definitely.
This brings us to you graduated, you injured yourself, you had a dream of
Yeah.
being in basketball and going to college and playing basketball. How'd you
Yeah.
hurt yourself?
Oh, I was playing basketball and I went up and a guy undercut me and I landed on my back and it
Oh.
hurt my back and yeah.
And your basketball career was ended at that
I
time.
actually played more, but I couldn't jump anymore. So I turned from being a forward to a guard. I'm still good, but I couldn't, do what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that turned out to be a gift. So one of the things about men's work that I really see, we talk about all the time, is where your wounds are is where your gifts are.
Mm-hmm.
So that thing, like I'm like learning from your challenges, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was gonna go to a small school, not get a good education, but go play basketball. And that got wiped off the table and I went to a better school and it's probably a good thing, right?
Yeah. The the gifts in the challenges or the gifts in the breaks. I think of the Japanese tradition of when you break an object, you repair it with gold.
Ah, did
And
not know
so
about that.
so it's more cherished after being
Oh,
repaired
oh,
with this tremendous care and an intention that the repairing process increases the
enhances that.
value.
I had not heard of that.
Yeah.
Like what we do is get out the
The duct
scotch
duct
tape,
tape.
the scotch tape, and yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. It, yeah,
They put
beautiful,
tremendous care and intention to the repair, and
beautiful,
through that it's stronger,
beautiful,
it's more
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah,
And they appreciate that. That's the wabi sabi. The imperfections are what make things really beautiful.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
When you were growing up in the household and in school, did you identify as a good kid?
Within the groups where that was valued, yes.
But you were bad kids other places? Like
I was what?
you always made good grades, you always did your chores, you wanted to be seen as a good kid.
It was a mix for me
It was.
because I knew that when I like no, I did not make the grades that I could have.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a part of me that didn't like I wanted to be seen and liked by people who didn't value that. There was this tension.
Hmm.
I didn't want to be this this straight A guy.
Right.
Yeah, because then the cool kids wouldn't like me, and the sports guys wouldn't like me, and the shit kickers, the cowboy types, like I wanted to be a part of everything.
So you almost maybe tamp down
I
your
did.
intelligence in order to fit in a lot of areas
I
where you
did.
could have made really great grades. You were aware that that was part of the social game you're playing.
I think so. Subconsciously, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to go forward a little bit?
Well, yeah, if you
I don't know how much time we have here yet.
we have about 30 minutes.
Okay, great. Okay. So, yeah, so let's move forward. So, yeah, there's this thing that happened that has been showing up in the last several years. Like I've told this story a number of times, and that people tend to appreciate is when I was a senior in high school, I was in the National Honor Society,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a banquet, 120 people there, and there was a small high school, and they were trying to get a little talent thing, like who's going to get up and sing or read poetry or something for the audience. And I was signed up to play my guitar, strum my guitar for this Carolyn who was going to sing. And so I was going to do that. And then they needed more. And they finally convinced me to sing a song in front of all these people. Not something I'd ever done before. So that night, I strummed Peaceful, Easy Feeling,
Mm-hmm.
Eagles, and I sang. People clapped. I got off stage. On the way home, my parents didn't say a word about that. What message do you think David, given everything I've told you, took on from that?
You're asking me?
I am.
It's the through line for all of this is that it wasn't
Yes.
okay to be expressive or to entertain or to be artistic and creative.
There you go. So the message I took on was I must have sucked.
Hmm.
If I'd actually done well, they would have said something.
Hmm.
So I took on this message I sucked. And I made a decision that I would never, ever sing in front of a group of people again by myself.
Hmm. At that time,
At that time, I was 18 years old.
but you wanted to. You enjoyed singing and
I
playing music,
did. I did.
but
I
without
mean, I
having.
created that all on my own, even though my family wasn't into it at all. I went and got a guitar and learned how to strum, and like I did that without any of their support. And then I showed it to them. Got no words.
Yeah, it does take. It takes some tending an ember to create fire, and when
You need to have a
you
safe
got
place
that
to do it.
ember there, and they said they didn't give it. It's almost like they starved of oxygen.
This is the message I took away. Okay. And 42 years later, no, 42. Yes, 42. I was 60 years old. I had a birthday celebration. I had a fire circle behind a guy's house. There were 15 men there. I asked everyone to bring something vulnerable to share. At the end of all that, I got up with the ukulele that I had just picked up about 4 months
And
before.
sang "Peaceful, Easy Feeling."
I sang Leaving on a Jet Plane.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared to death. I was terrified. I forgot all the words. I stood up there and said, "Guys, I've forgotten all the words. I'm terrified here."
Mm-hmm.
And they all were like just so supportive. The words came back and I rocked it. and they knew the story, and they really celebrated that, you know?
Yeah.
And since then, I've gone down on South Congress or 6th Street, and I've sung on the sidewalks.
Yeah.
And I've been to open mics, and I've led open mics, and I've really pushed into this edge of I've been I've done all this shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my fear of singing around other people has gone from 9 to like a 1. Like I'm very comfortable doing that now.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, me and my brother would go have meals with my dad outside because we wouldn't go inside with him. And I brought my ukulele and played it in front of my dad and my brother. Then knowing that there was this tension,
Mm-hmm.
and my brother, the first time in my life, said, "David, you're pretty good." I'd never heard that from him before.
Yeah.
And then I told my brother this story about what happened when I was 18, and
Yeah.
my dad was over here, and I told it to my brother. And then as I got to the end of it, my dad says, "David, that's not what happened." He said, "We were sitting," my dad has a great memory. He said, "We were sitting at the table, we heard you play, and your mom said, 'John, I didn't know David was so good.' And dad said to her, 'I know, he was awesome, right?'" That's what they said.
Mm-hmm. She didn't get that message.
And I went over, and me and my dad just bawled with each other.
That you didn't get that message.
No, I
They
didn't.
had shared that message
With them at their table,
but they
didn't share
you,
that with
which
me.
is this little nurturance that you need to go the next step.
And I took away the exact opposite.
I stank.
And my dad heard me, and he apologized for it, and he like felt me.
40 years.
40 years
or
later.
more,
Yeah, 40 years later.
living this belief that your folks
That's right.
thought you stank at
That's
singing.
right. So I have had the courage to put these kind of things in front of my family different times when it feels okay,
Yeah.
and it's really brought us all. In fact, the last time I did it, my dad shared several moments when he was in high school, when he wanted his parents' approval and they didn't give it to him, and how awful that was.
Mm.
And my dad cried about that in front of me. My dad cried in front of me about something that happened when he was in high school, very similar.
Yeah.
And then he pulled me over to him. I was sitting next to him. He pulled me over to him, and he grabbed my head and he pulled me to his chest and said, "David, I love you so much."
Oh.
And I just want, this is so, yeah. That's exactly what I had dreamed would happen when I went through that birth canal on my MKP weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and I crawled into the lap of the man that I had picked to be my ideal dad. I crawled in his lap and put my whole body on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them beforehand, I want him to say these words. And a big part of that was, "David, I love you so much."
Mm. And you realize that.
And I realized that. And so that would not have happened to all you, whoever's watching this thing, that would not have happened without the support and the encouragement of the men's work that I've been involved in. Would not have even, none of this would have happened.
Inviting your dad to connect with you
Yeah.
in that way.
That's right.
The men's work, the journey of men's work gave you a roadmap, a courage, insight, the
Confidence,
and the
self-awareness.
communication ability.
Yes. Emotional intelligence, all that. Yeah.
To invite a dialogue with your dad and probably with your brothers that have allowed you to realize the connection and the intimacy with your family that you've always wanted.
That's right.
But when you were a kid, you were a kid.
That's right.
You had to go along with whatever was there in the family unit. You didn't have all those skills.
Right.
So you were starved of that social and emotional connection and learning.
Yeah. Yeah. So that happened high school, and it's like there's a thread, right, to the present.
Yeah.
And
And your dad's high school. It goes back
and my
further.
dad's high
Just like
school.
then you realize why he is the way he is.
Exactly. Exactly. And I was very clear with him that like I don't hold anything against you. You know, I know, like, yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that, but he felt really seen, and he he's acknowledged that he was not that emotionally open as a father. Like
And was modeled that.
yeah, and I think he sees where that came
Hurt
from.
people hurt people.
Exactly.
And it's not even that they hurt people explicitly, they just continue the cycles that were provided to
Whatever's
them
comfortable. Right, right.
and not questioning and not, you know,
Yeah.
going outside of them for a little bit and saying, what's the weather like out here outside
Right.
of this shut in, cabin?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it bright and sunny?
Yeah. Yeah. So so I've developed some passions and some parts of me that I am trying to authentically bring to the world, like telling people, what my needs are and how they might best meet them if they don't be open to it.
Yeah.
That's something that comes from this journey of not having my needs met and then realizing that maybe there's a way for us to bridge that gap.
Did you get that from nonviolent communication?
That was very helpful. Yeah, that's a great modality.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's others, but MKP definitely embraces teaching men how to own their feelings and communicate around that in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I also, yeah. I'll just point. Yeah, yeah. I've done workshops like leadership workshops with emotional intelligence and stuff like that, and I
Are
also
you talking about the authentic relating? What kinds? What kind of modalities have you exposed yourself through over the years?
oh, well, nonviolent communication's a big one.
That's a big one for me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Shout out Marshall Rosenberg.
Absolutely. It's great to hear. Yeah. Um, so there's different things in the realm of conflict resolution.
Hmm.
That's kind of what that is. And that's actually a big passion of mine. I actually helped MKP develop a course on that because it was such a big deal for me.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like in my world, conflict is most of the time us not able to really empathize with each other. Like it's a lack of understanding that's driving most of the conflicts. And so that's a big passion for me. Yeah. So what else? Where were we? High school, went to college. What else? Like, where do you want to go next here?
Um, I don't have an agenda,
Okay.
but I could come up with one real quick.
Okay.
So it sounds like you went to what college did you go to?
Yeah. Um,
You okay?
yeah, I'm okay. I just I think when it comes to me as a person, I think that and relating it to men's work, there's a few things I would like to speak to. And so, are you okay with me?
What do you mean?
Um, so there's certain choices that I made as an early adult that were related to my past.
Yeah. Which ones?
Yeah. So, um, yeah, one of the big ones, the first big one was what kind of career did I want?
Hmm.
My dad was an engineer. My oldest brother, computer science. My middle brother is computer engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this feeling that I was more interested in doing things that involve people and being of service. So I had this idea, but I had no career counseling. I had no one to talk to. I had no mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
I had no one who could show me the possibilities.
Give you a roadmap for something other than engineering.
Yeah,
It
or
sounds
like
like your brothers and your family, it was all, here's a roadmap to success through
that's right.
engineering.
That's right. Yeah, I had nothing where do this quiz to identify what your biggest values and skills are.
Well, I did that quiz when I was in high school, and it
Yeah?
said that I could be a flower decorator or go and work at the circus. So I don't know how much I.
No. Okay. Well, I didn't have not only any, well, I didn't have an effective support for figuring that stuff out.
What did that lead to? What was the impact of that?
So I went ahead and signed up for computer science at the college that I was living,
What college was that?
University of Southwest Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns,
Yeah.
USL,
Okay.
University of Slow Learners.
Was that a thing?
That was us self-mocking, yes. It was not a great college, although the computer science program was really good. I did computer science and I minored in psychology and English, and I graduated, and um, I was still feeling like I wanted to do something else, and I decided that maybe I'll be a lawyer and
Mm.
I'll go do some positive things with that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that was, but like I knew I didn't want to do, shitty lawyer stuff, but I thought maybe there was a way to make a difference. And I actually took the test and got accepted to UT Law School, which was from out of state, was not easy to do.
Yeah.
Like I had the aptitude for it.
UT is a really good law school.
I had the aptitude for it. And then I talked with a couple of lawyers at the tennis place that I worked at, and they were both totally burned out on law, I think. And they told me, David, you and law school, you're going to just hate it. They were both just so, like, they painted the worst possible
They steered
picture.
you away from law.
They did. They did. So I wound up going ahead and taking a job with IBM here in Austin,
Doing engineering.
compute software. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I worked with a bunch of linguists, and we were like on the cutting edge of using computers to do spell check and grammar check.
Hmm.
That was kind of a cool job. But I was in the computer world. After 3 years of that, I decided, no, I need to go do something different. And so I went to pre-med for a semester at UT, thinking maybe I'd be a doctor, and realized that my memory isn't that great. And for me to do this medical thing would require like lots and lots of time. Like it wouldn't be easy for me, right?
Yeah.
And then I shifted, okay, I'm gonna get a doctorate in psychology, and I'll either do research or I'll do counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I went down that path and I started a master's program at Southwest Texas. And then I met a woman, fast forward here, met a woman 10 years older than me, beautiful. She was like Wonder Woman. And I definitely had a wound around not feeling attractive to attractive women. And that was a real hook for me. She also had two young kids from a prior marriage. They were 3.5. They were 3 and 5. And as I got involved with her, it became apparent that I was really great with kids. Really loved being that parent role.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman I was with she had some good qualities as a parent, but had not been raised with a lot of good role models.
Hmm.
And so I was clear that I was adding a lot to this situation, and I felt really valued. And what I want to name is, it was checking off boxes around me being a real man. This role, I was now an adult male playing a father role and helping to support a family.
Mm-hmm.
I suddenly got transported into that, and it checked off all these boxes of parts of me that were never met, right? Like they were never, like I never felt that validation before. And despite, in retrospect, seeing all kinds of red flags after the fact, I was in that and I could not see how this was not at all aligned with who other parts of me that wanted to bring my gifts to the world.
Wait, the father role wasn't in alignment with the other parts that wanted to bring gifts to the world? Is that what you're saying?
That I don't want to go too deep into this, just want to say just in general, uh she and I, while we had a lot of chemistry, were not a very healthy partnership. Just
I
that.
see.
And then add to the fact that taking on all this responsibility was going to mean that I had to quit my path to a PhD.
I see.
And I had a master's, and I suddenly veered to, well, I was working on my master's. So what I veered toward is I'm going to get a master's and work in a school while I'm getting my master's because we needed money. So I'm going to work and then part-time go to school. And then I'm going to get a master's in psychology, and hopefully maybe I'll be a counselor in the schools. So I adjusted my vision to fit in with the circumstances.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I worked as a teacher for 4.5 years and got my master's. And then because I was a white male and the school district was looking for other backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
the only job I was offered, even though I had a 4.0 and I was like a great, they needed more male counselors. The only jobs I was offered were like 30-minute drive out in the country and moving around schools during the day. Like not a very good. It's like the world was not embracing me in that space. And then I got a call from a friend to go back and get a job in the software industry.
You took it.
It was going to be like a 50% raise over my teacher salary. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Again, if a family, kids, boss, someone says, David, need you to do this, then there's a big part of me that's like, yes, sir, and I'll go do a fucking awesome job, you know? And so I took that path, and it was like 25 years of software.
Yeah, I'm seeing over and over the king out of balance.
The king not even in the room.
Yeah.
Well,
The folks at the tennis club you worked at steering you away from law school.
that's right. Not having the confidence to explore it fully myself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so much.
Over and over again. The
That's right.
family steering you away from getting that PhD. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, recurring patterns, right? And so yeah, and then golly, so much. So yeah, and I was so like the idea. So after 4 or 5 years, I knew this wasn't working. There were so many, like, we could not resolve big problems. We were not good partners around some important things. And I'm like, I started thinking about getting divorced. And then my wife gets pregnant unexpectedly. And and we decided to keep him, and then I recommitted to the marriage. And it wasn't until 9 years later that we got divorced. But that whole period was like, I was serving different communities. I was, doing different things. Everything I did try to do in a good way. but there was almost none of it that was really coming from David's unique
Are
gifts.
you walking your path?
That's right. Yeah, it wasn't available to me. And so I was kind of in this, playing these roles really well. Um, yeah.
So it's important to you that folks find their gifts. This is all a
Yeah.
really good.
So I'm a perfect person to look at your childhood wounds and see that how critical it is to try to unwrap all that, to put sunshine on it when you're young,
Yeah.
before you make these big decisions. Really understand who you are and what it is that's going to bring the most satisfaction in your life, and from that place make decisions. And
The
so I'm a great mentor for that kind of thing.
there's some resonance here, David, in that I'm the show where I'm at in my life right now is walking away from software, which is something that I've done for 10 years in order to support my family and my kids, because it was something I felt like I needed to do.
Yes.
And I came to a place in my life where my daughters were having challenges. They weren't really connected to me. There wasn't a lot of intimacy, and they were, the message I was getting was that they wanted to be with their moms more, and not with me. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like and this thing I did, software, was just to do the right thing, to have the high paying job, to have insurance, to have a family.
Yes.
And here it was not getting me anything that I really wanted.
Yeah.
And that's when I started looking at it saying, hey, what is my path? What do I want to do? What did I want to do when I was in middle school and in high school and in college even? And it's scary because I don't know. I don't have a roadmap right now to making this a career. So there's a lot of stepping off into the unknown and into uncertainty, trusting that if I show up in the world and contribute in this way without that monetary reward, the world will say, hey, we want more of that.
Yeah.
We see you, we accept you. Not only do we accept you, we want you to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And it's such a scary, vulnerable, it's frightening because the shadows come up and they say, you're not worthy.
Yes.
You're ugly. You're stupid. You don't, no one's going to want to see more of you or hear more of you.
Yeah.
And Phil Phails is saying, well, yeah, that's what happens when you're on the fool's journey. That's what happens when you're finding your way. You
That's right.
stumble, you fall, you get up, you look certain ways that aren't refined, and you keep going.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
this message is really helpful for me to hear today as I hear your message of going into software to support this family, and then coming to look back on a life where you know, didn't have your king, didn't choose things that were in line. Your body was telling you, your mind was telling you
Yeah.
what you wanted and what you needed, and you had that cultural crud all over you,
Yep.
all over you,
Yep.
that didn't allow you to make the decisions that were in alignment with your intuition, your inner king, your inner guide.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the beautiful things about this men's work is it's not just the exception. Like what just happened here, I shared my story and it brings up all this resonance for you, right?
Right.
So when I'm in circles and men are doing their work and they're expressing some real challenge or some old wound or whatever it is, it's not the exception that I feel resonance. It's
Yeah.
almost the rule.
Yes. We're doing all of our works
It is
together.
rare that I don't find some piece that it's like, hell yeah, I get that. I've been there.
Yeah.
how can I help you? I'm here for you. I see you.
Yeah.
And you're doing that for me right now.
Right. Your work is my work.
That's right. And you're reflecting how my work is your work supports me in continuing to express and share and feel okay.
This is men's work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say to me, it's human being work.
Human being work.
I strongly value that we're all more similar than we're different. And that's, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But thank you for that reflection.
Mm.
I hope that
Well,
we get to support each other more.
yeah. We're getting close to landing this plane,
Yes.
and I think about as we leave this interview, as you go about your day and I go about my day, there'll be some pondering, some questioning. I'll do at least on my end, and I'm going to invite you to do on your end what it would look like for this discussion to continue, for
Mm.
there to be, you know, deepening of connection and also sharing information about this. I think I mentioned to you the idea of having a men's group circle and sharing that with the world, allowing us to model for everybody what healthy, imbalanced masculinity and, sharing could look like. But this continuation of the discussion could look a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm planting the seed to see if it sprouts in some way in you. And I'm planting it in myself too to see if there's a way I could ask you to participate. Because the idea is that these conversations continue.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Like this isn't just it's not just this. It's like the planting a seed for more sharing, more support, more collaboration, more like possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Can be.
absolutely.
Yeah, if both people feel,
Yeah.
that that's in alignment for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I'm totally open to requests for possibilities. Totally open to that. Yeah.
One, the way it's happened a bunch of different ways. The way it happened for Grant Potts, Phil Fails at philosophy. He's a professor of philosophy. He kind of had an idea, and he came over and he brought over 9 books,
Wow.
philosophy books, and he said, "Let's look at these 9 books and pick one, and then let's discuss them
Mm.
in a series on philosophy." And so that's what we're doing. We're shooting, I think, the 5th one on
Wow.
Sunday,
Wow.
and
How's that
so
going?
it's amazing. Right now we're doing Can Consciousness Be Explained is where we're at, and we're doing a comparative look at between Western philosophy and Buddhism.
Wow.
And through that, I've returned to the Austin Zen Center and sitting Zazen at the Zen Center, and returned to the Mariposa Sangha and sitting in that insight meditation community. So it's been really rewarding. I mention that only to say that sprung up in him the way to move forward, and that he was excited about it for me
Mm.
was affirmative that it was the way, his excitement in it. And
Mm.
I'll share with you any ideas I have of excitement that come up, and I'd like you to think
Mm.
about any ways that you have that would be exciting and alive for you,
Mm.
because your aliveness, your excitement in it is probably going to be
Mm-hmm.
just as important
Got it.
as mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
There's a world here. I like yeah, you're really good at this, Philip. Like of um creating space container, the questions you ask, the way you respond is really supportive of bringing the most important things out. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to share as we get close to wrapping up?
Mm, let's see. Let's see. Mm, mm,
The jargon in our community would be Are you complete?
Yeah. I would like to take just a couple of minutes and just briefly share kind of where I'm at on this journey right now.
Sure.
Just sort of naming a few things. Um, I am. I started doing this 21 years ago in terms of Mankind Project, and that was about when I had done some growth work before then, but I really dove into it, and I had a community and a tool set that I'd never had before. So the last 21 years, you would not recognize the person I was then to who I am now. Like I feel like I'm radically different.
Transformation.
Yeah, like in terms of how I show up in all kinds of contexts, just radically. Back then, if I was leading a meeting, it had to be agenda driven and very much this is what it's going to look like. And any variation from that would bring up all kinds of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm leading, these these groups where who knows what's going to happen, and I can hold space for that. Like it's really different way of being, and not just groups but individually. And like when people get triggered with me, I'd no longer go into freeze mode myself. And it's a journey. Like I'm on that road. I'm not there yet, but it's like so much change for me. And yeah, yeah. I just want to say that the last the last 20 years, the last 10 years, the last 5 years, it's like it just keeps getting the impact of these changes keeps getting more beautiful and more impactful and more opening.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I won't go into all the details, but um, and I'm very much aware that there are still parts of me that are resistant to doing things differently, that are still stuck in default mode, that are still fear comes up, still present with me. Like
Mm-hmm.
these old friends of mine, I can just feel them coming up and um so it's like I'm not standing here saying this is going to solve all your problems, everything's going to be wonderful. No, that's not what I'm talking about here. Um, what I see is life is like this journey of possibilities, including emotional ups and downs and stuff. And the things I was raised with, the childhood wounds, are never going to completely disappear. Um, uh, but the journey is fucking worth it. It's like so much more is available than what I could have imagined.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if anyone has any thoughts or parts of you that like are curious, I strongly encourage you to find someone to talk about it. Go visit a men's group.
Yeah.
Check out MKP or other communities. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll stop there. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I have a hug?
Absolutely. I love hugs.
You just move this aside. There we go. Yeah, brother. Get up here. Need some help? Oh man.
Thank you, David. Philip, I'm so happy and proud of you
Yeah.
for doing this.
Thank you. That's
Like hell yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I do want to say if there's any way I can be of support, I would really hope you ask.
Yeah, I will.
I may not be a yes, but I really want to help you.
Yeah.
Like this is a great project you've got.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate you being a
Yeah.
part of it.
When it comes time to give reviews or whatever, like I happily give.
Well, yeah, go. Have you subscribed to the channel?
No.
Oh, go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe. That's
Is
all
it called
really helpful.
Phil?
Phil Phails with a PH.
I didn't even know.
Let's clap.
Oh,
That's it.
nice.
Thank you, David.
Beautiful. Awesome.